India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar reached Sri Lanka's capital Colombo. During his day-long visit, Dr. Jaishankar will meet with country's newly elected leadership. Dr. Jaishankar will call on President Anura Kumara Dissanayake and Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya. He is also expected to have discussions with his counterpart Vijita Herath. The visit underlines the shared commitment of India and Sri Lanka to further deepen the long-standing partnership for mutual benefit. It reaffirms India's commitment to its neighbourhood-first policy and the Sagar outlook. The visit marks the first-ever visit by any foreign minister after President Anura Kumara Dissanayake assumed office following the country's recent presidential elections. And DD India correspondent Dr. Ahmed Moeen Farooqi joins us from Colombo to give us more details on what is happening. Hello, Dr. Farooqi. We just heard that External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has arrived in Colombo. First ever visit by any foreign minister after President Dissanayake assumed office. And also, Dr. Farooqi, India's commitment when it comes to prioritizing its neighbors has been a crucial part of its foreign policy. What all can we expect from EAM's visit?
Siddharth, yes, primarily speaking, you're absolutely right here. It's the first ever visit of a foreign minister who has come to Sri Lanka after the new president has assumed office. His new government has taken charge. Now, primarily speaking, if we look at India-Sri Lanka relations, they have been on an upward trajectory over the last several years. Primarily, if I look at the last 3 years, India's humanitarian assistance during the peak of economic crisis was, unprecedented and in terms of scale as well as the swiftness with which it was executed and provided. And this is one of the reasons why India is particularly being looked at as a very important partner for Sri Lanka. In fact, India is a very essential partner in terms of many issues. If you look at the regional safety and security, yes, India is a very important provider of net security. It's also the first responder. Now, going in this same trajectory, yes, earlier President Dissanayake, when he was just a member of parliament, he had visited India earlier this year and he had met Dr. Jaishankar. Today's meeting of Dr. Jaishankar with President will probably take forward the discussions that they had earlier. And it will be in a new light as well, because in his capacity as the head of the state and the head of the government, he will probably take forward how his government will plan the India-Sri Lanka relations, as well as how the various other issues of mutual benefit will be discussed between them. If we also look at various other facets of discussions, we may also possibly expect some discussions with regard to the coming general elections, as well as the current economic crisis which Sri Lanka is still in, and it is still trying to wiggle out of. The economic recovery is still in process. Sri Lanka is still on the knife's edge. If you remember this, $36 billion was the external debt which Sri Lanka owed at the end of 2021. And that is almost getting restructured with the final nod from the ISB, that is the International Sovereign Bondholders, yet to happen. And that may happen soon. Once that it's completed, then Sri Lanka will go ahead with the repayments and the related restructuring of the debt as such. Siddharth, but primarily speaking, if you look at it, it's a very difficult phase for Sri Lanka. There are lots of promises which the new government made, and it is a very critical time for the new government to plan out its strategy. And here, India-Sri Lanka relations will be very vital. And this is something which we are expecting, that some amount of clarity will emerge as both sides, we have new governments, and how the relations will pan out for the next 5 years probably will be, today's meetings will have some amount of idea with regard to how it will go ahead. Siddharth.
Dr. Farooqi, many things will come out from today's meeting, and the plan will be somewhat clear as to what will happen in the next 5 years. Many things will be clear, you're right. President Dissanayake also met Indian High Commissioner in Colombo, Santosh Jha, just a few days back, and Mr. Jha expressed India's willingness to assist Sri Lanka in implementing digitization to combat corruption, and told about its significance as well. With India leading by example of successfully implementing digitization in various sectors, do you see its possibility there as well? Now the talks are being initiated.
Siddharth, it's actually if you look at, you just mentioned digital connectivity. Connectivity itself is a very big facet of discussion between India and Sri Lanka. In fact, when the previous president Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India, him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had brought out the joint vision document, which had talked about connectivity in many manners, including the digital connectivity component as well. In this regard, UPI was launched earlier this year by the Prime Minister and President Wickremesinghe, and this was something, a huge turning point, because India has a huge gain in terms of, India has a headway in terms of being the world leader in terms of digital transactions in the financial sector. And apart from that, India also has some amount of leverage in terms of being the world leader in terms of getting the digital technologies in various facets. The India Stack and the DPI is something which India wants to share the technologies as well as the know-how with its partner countries. And this is something which India has been talking about since quite some time. The meeting which High Commissioner had with President Jaishankar did talk about the digital infrastructure building here, and in this regard there is already a plan which is in force, which is being discussed, that is with regard to the digital identity project, and probably it will be taken forward. Maybe more things could be seen in the coming days. Apart from that, if we have to talk about the connectivity itself, then yes, a lot of things are expected to happen in Sri Lanka and between India and Sri Lanka, and that is something which we'll most likely see in the coming days as well. Siddharth.
Dr. Farooqui, will keep taking updates on you since External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar has just arrived in Colombo. But wonderful analysis, and thank you so much for joining in and for your analysis.